The 1990s in Britain, a time before social media, when conversations happened face-to-face or over the phone, before the world changed forever with the invention of the internet and digital age. It was a decade of optimism, filled with joy and celebration, of hope, of change. Communities came together in ways we rarely see today. Some say it was Britain's last good time, a golden era of unity and progress. The country was emerging from the shadow of the Thatcher years, ready for a fresh start. A new era was dawning, bringing with it a sense of renewal and possibility. Britpop was on the airwaves, defining the sound of a generation. Cool Britannia was in the air, influencing fashion and culture. It was a time for being young and alive, for exploring new ideas and identities. From the quaint villages to the bustling cities, Britain was buzzing with a new energy. The economy was booming and opportunities seemed endless. People felt good about the future, confident that better days were ahead. It was a time for dreaming big, for setting ambitious goals and believing they could be achieved. It was a time of great music, iconic fashion, and unforgettable moments that defined a generation. The Gulf War and the death of Princess Diana shook the nation, bringing moments of sorrow and reflection. But through it all, the spirit of optimism endured, uniting people in resilience and hope. This is the story of the 1990s in Britain, a decade of transformation and unforgettable memories. A decade that will never be forgotten, forever etched in the hearts and minds of those who lived it. Life in the cities was a whirlwind of activity. London was at the heart of Cool Britannia. Britpop bands like Blur and Oasis ruled the airwaves. Their music captured the energy and optimism of the era. The streets were alive with fashion. Grunge and Britpop inspired the looks. Denim jackets, bomber jackets and Doc Martens were everywhere. People expressed themselves through their clothes. Pubs were packed with young people. They were listening to music and socialising. The atmosphere was electric. New bands were springing up all over the place. It felt like anything was possible. Markets were a hive of activity. People browsed stalls selling everything from vintage clothes to street food. The air was filled with the sounds of bartering and laughter. It was a melting pot of cultures and experiences. Fashion in the 1990s was a mix of grunge, Britpop, and a revival of 1970s styles. Denim was a staple. People wore denim jackets, jeans, and even denim shirts. The more ripped and faded the denim, the better. Bomber jackets were another popular choice. They came in all colours and styles. Some were plain, while others were adorned with patches and embroidery. They were often paired with jeans and a t-shirt. Hairstyles were big and bold. Women often had big, bouncy curls. Men sported curtains and bowl cuts. Hair gel was an essential styling product. It kept those styles in check. Doc Martens were the footwear of choice. They were sturdy and stylish. People wore them with everything from jeans to dresses. They completed the 1990s look. The music scene, Oasis, Blur, and the Britpop battle. Music was the lifeblood of the 1990s in Britain, pulsating through every street and home. Britpop was the defining sound of the era, a genre that captured the spirit of a generation. Bands like Oasis, Blur, Pulp and Suede dominated the charts, creating anthems that still resonate today. Their music was catchy, anthemic and full of attitude, reflecting the youthful exuberance of the time. The Britpop battle between Oasis and Blur captured the imagination of the nation, becoming a cultural phenomenon. The two bands were locked in a fierce rivalry, each vying for the top spot in the hearts of fans. They released hit after hit, each song adding fuel to the fire of their competition. It was a golden age for British music, a time when the airwaves were filled with iconic tunes. Gigs were packed to the rafters. The atmosphere was electric, with fans eagerly awaiting every performance. Mosh pits erupted in the crowd, a testament to the raw energy and passion of the fans. People sang their hearts out to their favourite bands, creating a sense of unity and shared experience. It was a time for letting loose and having fun, a celebration of youth and freedom. But Britpop was just one part of a diverse music scene, a scene that included many other genres and styles. Dance music was also hugely popular, with its own dedicated following. Rave culture was at its peak. with massive parties and underground events. People flocked to clubs and warehouses to dance the night away, losing themselves in the rhythm and beats. Historical events, the Gulf War and the death of Diana. The 1990s in Britain were not without their dark moments. The Gulf War in 1991 cast a shadow over the nation. People watched in horror as the conflict unfolded on their television screens. The death of Princess Diana in 1997 sent shockwaves through Britain and the world. Millions mourned the loss of the people's princess. Her death was a national tragedy. These events had a profound impact on British society. They forced people to confront difficult issues. They also highlighted the importance of unity and compassion. Despite these challenges, the spirit of optimism endured. The 1990s remained a decade of hope and change. The human spirit proved to be resilient. Television, from Mr. Bean to absolutely fabulous. Television in the 1990s offered a diverse range of programming. From comedy to drama, there was something for everyone. British television was renowned for its quality and originality. Mr. Bean, starring Rowan Atkinson, brought laughter to millions with his hilarious slapstick comedy. The show was a global phenomenon. It transcended language barriers. Absolutely Fabulous, starring Jennifer Saunders and Joanna Lumley, became a cult classic. The show followed the antics of two aging fashionistas. It was outrageous, hilarious, and utterly addictive. Father Ted, set on a remote Irish island, was a comedy masterpiece. The show followed the misadventures of three priests. It was both funny and thought-provoking. These shows, and many others, reflected the humour, creativity, and diversity of British culture in the 1990s. They provided a welcome escape from the everyday. Cultural impact. The rise of Cool Britannia. The 1990s witnessed the rise of Cool Britannia, a cultural movement that redefined British identity. British culture was back in fashion, influencing trends worldwide. From music and fashion to art and film, Britain was leading the way, setting new standards. The success of Britpop bands like Oasis and Blur put British music back on the global map, making waves internationally. The band's music was full of energy and attitude, resonating with fans everywhere. It captured the imagination of a generation, becoming the soundtrack of their lives. British fashion designers were also making waves, pushing boundaries. Alexander McQueen and Stella McCartney emerged as major talents, revolutionizing the industry. Their designs were innovative and edgy, breaking away from traditional norms. They challenged the conventions of the fashion industry, creating iconic looks. British films such as Trainspotting and The Full Monty gained international acclaim, showcasing British talent. These films offered a gritty and realistic portrayal of British life, resonating with audiences. They also showcased the talent of a new generation of British filmmakers, bringing fresh perspectives. Cool Britannia was a celebration of all things British, a revival of national pride. It was a time of great creativity and innovation, with artists and designers pushing the envelope. It put Britain back on the map as a cultural powerhouse, influencing the world. Optimism and nostalgia, a decade of hope and change. The 1990s in Britain were a time of great optimism and hope. The economy was booming, the country was at peace. People felt good about the future. There was a sense that anything was possible. The old rules no longer applied. It was a time for breaking down barriers and challenging the status quo. Today there is a great deal of nostalgia for the 1990s. People look back on the decade with fondness and affection. It was a simpler time, a time before social media and the 24-hour news cycle, the music, the fashion, the culture. It all came together to create a unique and unforgettable era. It was a decade that defined a generation.